No one believes in you good. Get to work. Part 1. The brutal truth. Hook plus reality slap. Spoken narration. Dark. Slow. Controlled. No sympathy. Listen carefully. Nobody believes in you. Not your friends. Not your family. Not the people smiling in your face. And I need you to hear this clearly. That is not the problem. The problem is you're still surprised by it. You wake up every day secretly hoping someone will clap for you, approve you, validate you. That hope is poison, because while you're waiting for belief, life is waiting for work. Let me tell you something most people are too soft to say, that if you were worth believing in right now. They would already see it, but they don't. And that hurts your ego.so. Instead of fixing the work, you attack the world. You say they don't support me. You say they don't understand me. You say they're negative. No, they're accurate based on your results. Belief follows proof. Respect follows consistency. Silence follows dominance. And right now, you haven't earned any of it. That's the truth. Not motivational truth. Not Instagram truth. Real life truth. You want people to believe in your future while you're lazy in the present. That's delusion. Nobody believes in you because you keep quitting on yourself. You start. You stop. You get emotional. You disappear. Then you come back asking for support again. Let me say this slowly. Support is not given to potential. Support is given to pressure. Discipline. Visible effort over time. People don't doubt talk. They doubt patterns. And your pattern says, I'm comfortable. So good. Let them doubt you. Because belief is a distraction anyway. You don't need belief. You need a schedule. You need repetition. You need silence. You need suffering with purpose. You think the grind is supposed to feel good? No, the grind feels lonely. It feels boring. It feels unrewarded. That's why most people quit. They confuse discomfort with failure. Let me reframe this for you. One believing in you is a gift. It removes pressure. It removes expectation. It removes performance. Now you can work ugly. You can work slow. You can work unseen. And that's where real killers are built. Because when nobody's watching, you find out who you really are. Most people crumble there. They need noise. They need praise. They need likes. You don't. Or at least you shouldn't. If nobody believes in you, stop talking. Stop explaining. Stop announcing. Get to work. Not for motivation. Not for revenge. Not for attention. For identity. Because the only thing worse than no one believing in you is you believing the lie that belief comes before effort. It doesn't. Effort comes first. Results come second. Belief comes last. That's the order. And if you can't live with that order, you don't deserve the outcome. Let them doubt. Let them sleep. Let them scroll. You have work to do. Locked, ending lock in line, repeatable. No belief. No excuses. Just work. Part 2. Comfort is your real enemy. Slow. Heavy. Controlled. Every sentence lands. Let's get one thing straight. Your biggest enemy is not failure. It's not haters. It's not lack of money. It's not bad luck. Your real enemy is comfort. And comfort doesn't attack you violently. It whispers. It tells you, you can do it tomorrow. It tells you, you deserve a break. It tells you, just one more scroll. It tells you, you worked hard enough today. Comfort never looks dangerous. That's why it kills more dreams than fear ever will. Fear makes noise. Comfort makes excuses feel reasonable. And you fell for it. Every night you say you're tired. But you're not tired. That you're overstimulated. That you're distracted. That you're addicted to ease. Let me say this clean, that if your life hasn't changed, it's because your habits are comfortable. You don't wake up with urgency. You wake up with entitlement. You expect progress without pressure, growth without pain, success without sacrifice. That mindset will keep you average forever. And average is crowded. Everybody wants motivation. Nobody wants monotony. But greatness lives in monotony. The same wake-up time, the same boring work, the same lonely grind, the same discipline when nothing happens. And that's where you start breaking, because boredom exposes who you really are. You say you want success, but you can't sit still without stimulation. You can't work without music. You can't think without your phone. You can't struggle without complaining. How do you expect to dominate life when you can't dominate your impulses? Every time you choose comfort, you train weakness. Every time you avoid discomfort, you strengthen the wrong identity. Your brain is learning something right now, that it's learning that when things get hard, you escape. That pattern will ruin you, because life doesn't reward intention, that IT rewards endurance. And endurance is built in discomfort. Let me tell you something brutal, that if you quit when it's boring, you don't deserve excitement. That if you quit when it's lonely, you don't deserve recognition. That if you quit when it's hard, you don't deserve the result. That's not hate, that's law. Comfort keeps you soft, soft mentally, soft emotionally, soft spiritually. You react to everything. You get offended easily. You overthink comments. You need reassurance. That's what comfort creates. Hard people are forged in hard seasons. And right now, you're avoiding yours. You keep waiting for the right mood, the right timing, the right support. That's comfort disguised as patience. Let me expose something. The version of you that wants comfort will never become the version of you that wins. They cannot coexist. Point one must die. And nobody tells you this, but comfort feels productive at first. You organize instead of execute. You plan instead of act. You watch instead of do. You confuse preparation with progress. But preparation without execution is procrastination wearing a suit. You feel busy, but you're not effective. You feel tired, but you're not fulfilled. You feel stressed, but you're not disciplined, because discipline is calm. Discipline doesn't argue with emotions, that IT ignores them. You say, I don't feel like it. Discipline says, irrelevant. You say, I'm not motivated. Discipline says, move anyway. You say, this is uncomfortable. Discipline says, good. Because discomfort is confirmation that IT means you're doing something that weak people avoid. Comfort wants you entertained. Discipline wants you evolved. Comfort wants pleasure now. Discipline wants respect later, and you have been choosing now over later for too long, that's why nothing changed. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you did something hard at nobody applauded? When was the last time you worked knowing there would be no reward today? When was the last time you chose silence instead of validation? If you can't remember, that's the problem, that you've been living for reaction. Likes, views, opinions, approval, that you've outsourced your confidence. And comfort loves that, because as long as you're chasing approval, you won't chase mastery. Mastery requires isolation. Isolation requires discomfort. Discomfort requires discipline. And discipline requires saying no to the version of you that wants ease. Now let's talk about loneliness, because comfort hates loneliness. Comfort tells you to stay connected, stay available, stay reachable. But growth requires distance. Distance from distractions, distance from noise, distance from people who don't understand the grind. Loneliness isn't punishment, that it's training, that it's the weight room of the mind. And most people fail there. They can't sit with themselves. They can't face their thoughts. They can't handle silence, they fill the void with content, with people, with pleasure. But voids aren't meant to be filled, they're meant to be forged. The strongest minds are built when there's no one to impress. Comfort tells you to blend in. Discipline forces you to stand alone. And standing alone hurts. That's why most people never do it. They'd rather be liked and broke than lonely and becoming. But hear me, that if you're serious about changing your life, you must become comfortable being uncomfortable. Not once. Not sometimes. Every day. Wake up earlier than you want. Work longer than you feel. Like, train when you're sore, study when you're bored. because boredom is the gate that on the other side of boredom's skill, that on the other side of skilly's confidence, on the other side of confidence is dominance. But you never reach it because you quit at boredom. You quit when the novelty fades, that's comfort reclaiming control. Let me be clear, motivation is not coming back. That excitement you felt at the beginning, that spark, it's gone on purpose. Because if you can't move without it, you were never built for. Winners move without emotion. They don't ask how they feel. They ask what must be done. Comfort asks, is this enjoyable? Discipline asks, is this necessary? That's the difference. And don't lie to yourself. You know when you're choosing comfort. You feel it in the hesitation, in the delay, in the excuses. You feel it when you say, I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow is comfort's favorite word, because tomorrow never comes. Only today comes. And today keeps exposing you. You either did the work or you didn't. No stories and explanations. Results don't care about your reasons. They only respond to your actions. Comfort wants you to explain. Discipline wants you to execute. And here's the part nobody wants to hear. You will lose people when you choose discipline. Friends will feel uncomfortable around you. Family will say you changed. People will mock your intensity. That's normal. Comfort builds community. Discipline builds separation. And separation feels scary until you realize it's necessary. Because most people don't want more. They want easy. They don't want pressure. They want peace. They don't want responsibility. They want comfort. And if you stay around that too long, it will rub off on you. You don't rise to your goals. You sink to your environment. That's why discipline often looks lonely, that you're walking a road most people refuse to step on, and they'll call you crazy until they call you successful. But that only happens if you don't quit. Comfort will test you daily. It will ask, is this worth it? It will remind you of easier options. It will tempt you with rest before results. You must answer with action, not words, not motivation. Movement, because discipline is built in motion, not thinking, not planning. Doing, even when it's ugly, even when it's slow, even when it feels pointless, that's where the edge is built. And one more thing. Comfort lies about happiness. That IKT tells you avoiding pain will make you happy. But avoidance creates anxiety. Discipline creates confidence. You don't feel strong because you're comfortable. You feel strong because you survive hard things. That's real confidence. Earn confidence. And once you taste it, comfort won't satisfy you anymore. Ease will feel empty. Distraction will feel cheap. Excuses will feel embarrassing because you'll know what you're capable of, but only if you stop feeding comfort. Here's the decision. You can keep protecting your feelings and staying the same. Or you can attack your comfort and change your life. There's no middle no balance. No soft version of greatness. You want elite results? You live an uncomfortable life, daily, voluntarily, relentlessly. Locked, ending lock in line, repeatable. Comfort is expensive. Discipline pays. Part 3. Fear, judgment, and the need to be liked, lower tone. Zlower pace. Every line cuts. Let's talk about the real prison. Not money, not background, not opportunity. Fear of judgment, that invisible leash around your neck. You don't fail because you can't. You fail because you're scared to be seen trying. You don't lack ability. You lack permission. And you keep waiting for it from people who don't even control their own lives. That's the sickness. You want approval from the very crowd you're supposed to outgrow. You shrink. You dilute your ambition. You lower your standards. You hide your hunger because standing out feels dangerous. Let me say this clearly. Fear of judgment is fear of separation, and separation is required for dominance. You want to win without being misunderstood. That is impossible. Every level above average requires social discomfort, because when you move differently, you threaten people's excuses. But discipline exposes their laziness. Your focus exposes their distractions. Your growth exposes their stagnation. So they judge. Not because you're wrong, but because you're reminding them of what they're not willing to do. And you feel that tension. You feel it when you don't post the work, when you don't speak your goals, when you play small on purpose. That's fear wearing logic. You call it being humble. You call it being realistic. You call it not wanting attention. Stop lying that you're afraid of being laughed at, afraid of being doubted, afraid of failing publicly, afraid of looking stupid. So you choose a safer pain. Regret, because regret is private, judgment is public, and most people would rather live small forever than look foolish for one season. That's why crowds stay crowds. Let me attack this directly. If judgment controls you, you are owned by opinions, owned by reactions, owned by comments. Your mood changes with feedback. Your confidence rises and falls based on what people say. That means you don't have identity. You have dependency, and dependency kills leadership. Leaders don't move when it's approved. They move when it's required. Fear says, what if they don't believe in me? Discipline says, what if I don't act? Fear asks for permission. Discipline asks for results. You want to know why judgment feels so powerful? Because you've been trained to need it from school, from social media, from society. Perform well, get praise. Perform badly, get punished. So now your nervous system associates approval with safety. And when approval is threatened, you freeze. That's not weakness, that's conditioning. But conditioning can be broken. And it must be, because the life you want exists on the other side of disapproval. Let me say something uncomfortable, that if nobody is criticizing you, you're not doing anything meaningful. Safe actions get ignored. Bold actions get attacked. Judgment is proof of visibility, and visibility is proof of movement. You don't get judged sitting still. You get judged stepping forward. So the question is not, how do I avoid judgment? The question is, how do I stop caring? And the answer is simple. You build something stronger than opinion. Identity. Right now, your identity is weak. That's why opinions penetrate. Strong identity doesn't argue. IT doesn't explain it. IT doesn't defend. IT executes. And execution silences critics better than any speech. But here's the hard part. Before execution silences them, judgment gets louder. People doubt louder right before you break away. That's the test. That's the gate. Most people turn back there because they confuse resistance with warning. They think opposition means stop. No, opposition means proceed. Let me break this illusion. People will judge you if you try. People will judge you if you don't. They will judge your ambition. They will judge your laziness. They will judge your grind. They will judge your comfort. Since judgment is unavoidable, why not choose the path that pays? Fear of judgment is irrational because the outcome is the same. The only difference is the result point. One path gives you excuses, the other gives you respect. But respect comes late. Mockery comes first. That's the order. And if you can't handle mockery, you can't handle mastery. Because mastery isolates you. IT separates you from the group. And humans fear separation more than failure. That's biology. But you're not an animal. You're a decision maker. And decision makers override instinct. Let me talk to the ones who feel stuck. You're not lazy. You're scared of being exposed. Scared that if you really try and still fail, you won't have excuses anymore. Right now, comfort protects your ego. You can say, I didn't really try. But once you commit fully, failure feels personal. So you hover. Half effort, half commitment, half belief. That way, if it fails, you can retreat. But half effort guarantees one thing, a half life. You will never know your capacity. You will never know your ceiling because you never jumped. Fear keeps you on the edge off your own potential. And judgment sharpens that fear because judgment feels like exposure. But hear this. Exposure is how strength is built. Muscle grows under tension. Character grows under Observation. When you perform under judgment and keep going, you harden. Your nervous system adapts. Criticism stops shocking you. Opinions stop mattering. You become unshakable, but only if you stay in the fire. Most people run at the first burn. They retreat to safety. Safety feels good short term, but IT kills long term. You don't conquer fear by thinking. You conquer it by action in the presence of fear. Waiting for fear to disappear is waiting forever. Fear fades after repetition. Judgment fades after. Consistency. And consistency is louder than confidence. You don't need to feel fearless. You need to act despite fear. Courage is not calm. Courage is commitment under pressure, and pressure reveals identity. Right now, your identity is flexible. You change based on who's watching. You act one way around grinders, another way around doubters. That inconsistency drains you. Strong identity is stable. That IT doesn't shift with rooms. That IT doesn't perform, but IT operates. And here's the part that stings. Some people close to you want you to stay small, not consciously, but emotionally. Your growth threatens the relationship dynamic. If you rise, they have to confront their stagnation. They discourage you in subtle ways. Be realistic. Don't rush. Why so serious? Enjoy life. That's fear talking through them. And if you obey it, you inherit it. That's why elite paths require distance. Not because others are evil, but because proximity influences behavior. You don't need permission to outgrow people. You need discipline to withstand the guilt, because guilt is another control mechanism. That they'll say you changed. You did. That's the goal. Growth changes you. Stagnation preserves relationships. Evolution breaks them. That's the price. And if you're not willing to pay it, you will always negotiate with fear. Let me destroy another lie. Confidence does not come from belief. That IT comes from evidence. And evidence is built in public work, even when you're doubted, even when you're mocked, even when you're questioned. You stack proof, and proof kills fear. But you can't build proof in hiding. You can't build confidence in comfort. You can't build identity avoiding judgment. Judgment is the gym. Avoid it, you stay weak. Face it, you adapt. And one day you stop noticing it. That's when you become dangerous. Because once judgment loses power, nothing controls you. Not opinions, not trends, not crowds. You move on principle, and principle outlasts noise. Here's the decision point. You can keep rehearsing conversations in your head. Keep worrying about what they'll say. Keep imagining worst-case scenarios. Where you can act and let reality speak. Most people never realize this. People stop judging when you stop reacting. Reaction feeds judgment. Silence starves it. Results end it. You don't argue your worth. You demonstrate it. Quietly, relentlessly, and over time, judgment turns into curiosity. Curiosity turns into respect. Respect turns into distance. And distance gives you space to dominate. But only if you survive the early phase, the loud phase, the lonely phase, the misunderstood phase. That's where most people quit, because they wanted applause at the beginning, but applause comes at the end. And only if you finish that. Stop asking, what will they think? Start asking, what will I become if I don't act? That question should terrify you more. Because the greatest regret is not being judged. It's realizing you lived according to someone else's comfort. You owe nobody an explanation. You owe yourself effort. And if they don't believe in you, good, that's fuel. Because belief from others is optional. Self-respect is not. And self-respect is built by doing what's hard when it's unpopular. Daily. Locked, ending lock in line. Repeatable. Judgment is noise. Identity is law. Part 4. You are in no longer normal. Voice lower. Slower. Colder. No emotion. At some point, you have to accept this, that if you keep trying to live like everyone else, you will die with everyone else's results. Average life. average income, average excuses, average regret. That path is already full. And if you're listening to this, it means something in you already knows you don't belong there. But knowing isn't enough, because knowledge without identity creates frustration. You see more, you want more, but you still live like the crowd. That split will destroy you if you don't choose.so. Choose now. You are no longer normal. Normal wakes up late. Normal complains. Normal waits. Normal needs permission. Normal needs motivation. You don't. Normal avoids pressure. Normal avoids isolation. Normal avoids responsibility. You can't. Because the moment you decided you wanted more, you disqualified yourself from a normal life. And here's the truth nobody tells you. Wanting more is a curse if you don't commit fully. It makes you restless, irritable, disconnected. You don't fit in anymore, but you're not elite yet. That in between is hell. And most people retreat back to normal just to feel comfortable again. That's why most people abandon ambition. Not because they can't do it, but because they can't handle being different. Being different costs you identity. You lose shared routines, shared excuses, shared comfort, and you gain silence. Silence is where identity is built. But silence is unbearable for someone who hasn't decided who they are. Right now, you're undecided. That's why you still negotiate with. Normal. You wake up early sometimes. You work hard sometimes. You stay disciplined. Sometimes that's not identity, that's performance. Identity is who you are when nobody's watching and nobody's rewarding you. Let me strip this down. If your habits change based on mood, you don't have identity. You have preference, and preference collapses under pressure. Elite identity does not. Elite identity is boring, that it's repetitive, that it's rigid, that it's non-negotiable, that's why most people reject it. They want freedom, but discipline is the only freedom that lasts. Normal people want balance. Elite people want alignment. Normal people want happiness. Elite people want respect. Normal people ask, how do I feel today? Elite people ask, what is required today? And here's the uncomfortable shift. Once you accept you're no longer normal, you lose the right to complain. Complaining is for people who haven't chosen responsibility. You chose pressure. That means no whining about loneliness, and whining about boredom, and whining about being misunderstood. That comes with the territory. You don't get elite outcomes with average tolerance. Your nervous system must upgrade. And upgrades hurt. Your old identity will resist. That IT will crave comfort. IT will crave familiarity. IT will crave approval. That's withdrawal, that you're detoxing from normal. And detox is painful. You'll feel out of place, disconnected, restless. That doesn't mean you're lost. That IT means you're shedding old patterns, old expectations, old versions of yourself. You don't need motivation for this phase. You need obedience. Obedience to the new standard. Wake up when the alarm hits. Not when it feels good. Work when it's boring. Not when it's exciting. Train when you're tired. Not when you're fresh. This is not self-improvement. This is self-replacement. The old you cannot coexist with where you're going. Stop trying to upgrade it. Kill it. Kill the excuses. Kill the need to explain. Kill the desire to be understood. Normal people need to be understood. Elite people need to be effective. Effectiveness doesn't ask permission. IT acts. And let me warn you, once you step into this identity, there's no going back without damage. You can return to comfort, but it won't feel the same. You'll feel weak, ashamed, restless, because once you see the gap between who you are and who you could be, you can't unsee it. That's why ignorance looks peaceful. Awareness is heavy, and elite awareness is isolating. You'll start noticing how much time is wasted, how much energy is misplaced, how much potential is buried in others and in yourself. That awareness will make conversations feel shallow, Entertainment feel empty. Excuses feel embarrassing. That's not arrogance. That's alignment, that you're aligning with a higher standard. And standards cost you. Relationships. Not because you think you're better, but because you're no longer compatible. Normal bonds are built on shared comfort. Elite bonds are built on shared discipline. And until you find those people, you walk alone. That's not punishment. That's preparation. Because leadership requires self-trust. And self-trust is built when you keep promises to yourself without witnesses. Every day you do what you said you would do. Your identity hardens. You stop asking who you are, and when you know who you are, external noise loses power. Criticism doesn't shake you. Praise doesn't intoxicate you. You become stable, and stability under pressure is rare. That's why elite people stand out without trying. They don't chase attention. Attention finds them. Because consistency is loud, but before consistency pays. It costs. That IT costs you weekends, that IT costs you sleep, that IT costs you comfort, that IT costs you excuses, and it demands something brutal. You must act like the future you before the results arrive. That means discipline without proof, effort without applause, work without validation. Normal people need evidence to commit. Elite people commit to create evidence. That's the inversion. And that inversion feels infinito. The average mind, they'll call you obsessed, extreme, unbalanced, good. Balance is for people who want to stay the same. Transformation requires obsession, temporarily, until the identity locks in. Once it locks in, discipline becomes automatic. You don't fight yourself anymore. You just move, but the locking phase is brutal because you're fighting years of conditioning. You've been trained to seek ease, avoid discomfort, blend in. Now you're training yourself to embrace resistance, seek difficulty, stand apart. That's a war, internal, daily, and you don't win it with motivation. You win it with rules. Clear rules that I wake up at this time, that I train regardless, that I work regardless, that I don't negotiate. Rules remove emotion. Emotion is unreliable. Rules are ruthless, and ruthless rules create unshakable identity. Once your identity is solid, life stops feeling chaotic. Pressure doesn't overwhelm you. Decisions don't exhaust you. You already know what you do. That's power, not hype. Power is calm. And here's the final shift in this part. You're not trying to be better than other people. You're trying to be dangerous to your old self, the lazy self, the fearful self, the comfort-addicted self. That's the real enemy. Not society, not haters, not lack of opportunity. You, the version of you that wants normal, that version must lose every day without negotiation. Because once you accept you are no longer normal, you also accept this. Your life will never be easy, but it will be yours, chosen, built, earned. And that is worth more than comfort ever will be. Locked, ending lock in line, repeatable. Normal ends here. Discipline decides.